Hello and welcome to the Cellar Door, New Zealand. I'm George and I am on a bridge. Right now I'm in Reefton, or the town of light, soaking in some ambience before a big day of gin, sights and activities. Let's go! We're starting our day in Reefton, named after the rich veins of gold found in a quartz reef nearby. The town was born in the gold rushes of the 1860s and was also the first town in the Southern Hemisphere to have a public supply of electricity in 1888. Today, I'm taking a break from New Zealand's wine offerings and exploring all things spirits. First up, I'm heading to Reefton Distillery, located in a quaint heritage-listed building on the edge of town. Beth, we are in the sort of heart of the distillery.
Yes, yeah.
I believe your first ever still.
Yes, so this is Biddy. She's our 380 litre column still. The name Little Biddy actually came from a very well-known gold panner, or gold miner, Bridget Goodwin, who was, I guess, probably one of the only women of the time who was gold panning. Back then it was known as man's work, and she also drank a lot of whiskey and gin and was ostracised by other women for wearing pants.
And smoking a pipe?
Yeah. So
sounds great.
a very hard woman. So it's quite nice, you know, when customers come into the cellar door, we can talk about Little Biddy and her story. At the moment we do liqueurs, vodka and a Little Biddy gin range as well. And we can also produce a neutral grain spirit in this still as well. So we start with a wash that's around 12% alcohol, and then we can distill it off to about 93% alcohol. So
and you've got some cool little plates I saw earlier.
Yeah. So basically each of these sits in between a column piece and the column here, and pretty much in between each of the column pieces it acts as one entire distillation. So as the alcohol moves up the column, it gets more and more pure through each stage I guess it goes through, and it starts at 12% and then goes up to around 93% alcohol. So you get some pretty pure alcohol out of that, which is
very
exciting.
Steampunk, that little
Yeah, exactly.
So you were saying that your range is the Little Biddy range, the vodka, the liqueurs, and then you're working towards something else as well.
A whiskey, yeah. So a single malt whiskey. Moonlight Creek is the name, so it's pretty exciting. We've actually produced our first new make out of our stills at our new site, and we'll be popping that into a cask this week. So it's pretty.
And waiting.
Yeah, and then waiting for about 3 years before it's matured and ready.
You've got lots to keep you busy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The Little Biddy gin range has just taken off so well. For the West Coast, we're very well known for the amount of rain we get. So we've got an endless supply of water, which is ideal for making spirits too, because we're surrounded by, you know, rainforest. We go out and actually collect local botanicals, so fresh botanicals, and we pop them in different parts of the still. So there's fresh botanicals that sits in this column, and there's a second piece of the still where we can fit more botanicals. The flavour from those botanicals is infused into the alcohol and then comes through in the gin. So
and then wins awards.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how you do it.
Yeah, that's how you make a gin.
Little Biddy has almost reached the end of her working life, as Reefton Distilling Company is moving to a larger site and Little Biddy gets to retire. I wonder if she'll take up bingo.
Come on in, George.
Great.
Cool.
Wow.
So this is our new facility.
It's a lot bigger.
Yeah, much bigger, so a lot more space, which is very exciting. This part of the distillery here is our brew house. So we're essentially brewing a wash or a beer that's not flavoured with any hops, so that we can distill that and make our new make spirit for our whiskey. So that happens all in this area. We have our mash tun, a couple of hot water tanks over the back, and then fermenters as well. And then from the fermenters, the wash comes into our wash still, which is George. George, and then gets distilled off into low wines.
Hi, George.
Yeah, hi George. So that's him. And then our low wines go into the Mackay, which is our second still here, and then that gets distilled and we take our cuts of our heads and hearts and tails, and the hearts is the new make spirit that goes into a cask to become the whiskey.
And you're filling at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, so we're going to put in our first lot of new make spirit into a cask this week, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
We've got some new first fill bourbon casks waiting to be filled, so pretty, I think, quite a big moment for us.
Yeah.
To fill our first cask with our new make spirit to put
Very
down this
exciting.
whiskey. Yeah. This still here, the capacity of it is 2,250 litres.
Wow.
Quite a
That's a
big
lot of
step
gin.
up, yeah. So at the moment, with our current production, 1 day of production at this site would be like a week's distilling
Oh, wow.
back at our other site. So yeah, quite a big step up.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, definitely required, which is good.
Yes.
This is a 12 plate column, whereas down at our other site there's only 9 plates. So we can get our alcohol to be a bit more pure here, and we'll be distilling a grain spirit for some of our gins too. So we can do that with this still. I think the really cool thing about this still is we can go around the back and change the valves and the direction of the flow of the vapor coming through. So that directs the vapor into separate parts of the still. So we can basically run with 2 baskets, we can run just the column and cut out the 2 baskets, we can run with 1 basket, we can cut 1 basket out partway through a run as well. So I think our options are endless.
So much to play
yeah,
with.
yeah, so much to play with. So it's really exciting. I'm pretty excited to use this, but obviously she's a lot bigger,
Yeah.
so quite daunting as well. Right, so this is quite a selection of our products. We've got our Wild Rain vodka, our classic Little Bitty gin, our pink Little Bitty gin, our black label gin, which is one that's actually made with a grain-based spirit that we distill through Bitty. So that's quite special. It takes about 3 weeks to produce.
Oh,
whereas
wow.
our
Gin
other
is sort of
yeah,
one day usually, yeah.
exactly. So quite a big process goes into making this style of gin.
Let's start with your...
So our classic gin uses 5 local botanicals, which we forage for fresh. The Douglas fir, which is nice and citrusy and quite piney. We use toa toa, which is alpine celery pine. So it's
Celery pine?
yeah, yeah. I think toa toa is probably one of my favourite botanicals. It's so fresh and vibrant, and it's got a really nice green flavour. It's quite tannic as well, so that comes through in the gin.
Alright.
We also use tarata, which is lemon wood, so a little bit citrusy and green again. Horopito, which is pepper tree or pepper leaf.
Oh, yeah.
And Remu as well. So the Remu sort of adds a really nice earthy smokiness to the gin, and it kind of gets cut through with the fresh lemon peel that we also infuse into there, and the standard gin-based gin botanicals. There's juniper, coriander, licorice, angelica, and orris root, and that's pretty standard for all of our gins as a base, and then we build on from there. Yeah,
Great.
awesome.
Let's
So have a
give it a
taste.
spin, yeah.
Really smooth as well, and you get a spice from that horopito to finish.
Yeah.
A
And
little
it
bit of a
really
tingle.
fills your mouth too.
It does, yeah. It's got a really good texture to it. Yeah.
Is that from the wood that it gets that kind of
think-
fullness?
Some of the botanicals actually contribute to the mouthfeel of the gin.
It's got like that little kind of oily
Yeah,
quality.
yeah. So you get some oils, well, the oils from the botanicals is what flavours the gin, but some of them, the texture of them is quite oily as well.
And what do you drink this with?
So this one here, a lot of people actually drink it over ice, just sipping neat, but it's really nice with a general sort of like classic Indian tonic. So on the
Oh,
nose,
it opens up even more.
it's really interesting. I think this gin, it kind of like develops as you smell it. It's like citrusy on the nose and quite piney as well, but then you get that sweet spice
Yeah.
underneath it. So it's quite well
That
layered.
cassia really kind
Yeah. It's definitely
Yum.
quite a complex gin.
I'll just taste it again just in case I've forgotten what it tastes like.
Yeah. So it's 40% ABV, which I think is
George.
no. That's like, I mean, we kind of go up from there.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's quite
call my
nice
jets.
and easy to
Yes.
drink. Yeah. So let's try the pink gin next. This has actually won quite a few innovation awards because it's not what you'd expect from a pink gin. Generally, pink gins have, you know, berries, so like raspberries and strawberries that are flavoured.
They're quite sweet.
Yeah, and quite sweet. Whereas this one here is really dry. We use lots of cassia, so that one's quite spicy as well. And then we infuse fresh cherries with it as well. So that's what gives it the colour. All of the colour is natural. It's got a really nice peppery note. So we use a combination of green and pink peppercorns. Just kind of cut through, I guess, the sweetness and jamminess of the cherries, and a really high proportion of juniper as well. So I really like this gin. This is probably
Will you
one
be
of my
tasting
favourite.
it with me?
Yes, I
you
will.
will.
I've got
Great.
a glass. So this pink gin, it goes really nicely with the East Imperial grapefruit tonic. I think it's nice to have a fresh sort of citrusy tonic just to cut through, I guess, the spicy richness of this gin. Really, really nice and smooth as well. It's 43% ABV, so a little bit higher than the classic gin, but incredibly smooth. Yeah. Cheers.
So smooth.
Yeah, really nice and warming. A little bit spicy from the peppercorns as well.
It's a different spice to the other one though.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I don't know how to describe it.
It's quite drying, I think, which is really nice because the cherry's quite sweet, and it is quite sweet, so you can kind of get this sweetness initially, and then it dries to finish, which is really nice. Yeah, there's like a little bit of a floral note from the pink peppercorn as well.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is, like a floral peppery kind
Yes,
of.
yeah. It's also got lemons, whole fresh lemons that are sliced, and whole fresh oranges that are sliced as well. So it's quite juicy too. Yeah.
Yum. Delicious.
Yeah, I love this one. Awesome.
Beth, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, nice to have you here, George. Thanks for visiting.
I'll be back.
Perfect.
One distillery down and another after the break. See you soon.
While filming Cellar Door New Zealand, our crew chose to stay at Hanmer Springs Hotel. Surrounded by stunning scenery and nestled amongst beautiful gardens and tall canopies, the Hanmer Springs Hotel is a truly relaxing retreat. Enjoy picturesque mountain views from your window and all the amenities you could need for a comfortable stay. Take in the beautiful and relaxing outdoors by taking a dip in the hotel swimming pool or dine at the in-house restaurant overlooking the luscious gardens. Hanmer Springs Hotel has everything you need for a memorable stay. Book your stay now online.
Whilst filming the Cellar Door New Zealand in Christchurch, our crew chose to stay at the George. Located in the heart of Christchurch, the George overlooks the picturesque Hagley Park and River Avon. The George offers a total of 52 rooms, complimentary car parking for guests, electric vehicle charging stations and free Wi-Fi. The George Restaurant, 50 Bistro, offers Neo Bistro contemporary New Zealand cuisine. Come, relax and stay a while and experience Christchurch accommodation with the ultimate in luxury, 5-star style and comfort. For inquiries or bookings, head to thegeorge.com.
From Reefton, we're heading to Christchurch via the stunning Lewis Pass, making a quick stop at the alpine village of Hanmer Springs. Time for a little R&R with the crew in the famous thermal pools.
Yes. So thermal.
These geothermally heated pools range from a comfortable 32 degrees right up to a very toasty 42.
It's okay, TLC. I didn't chase this waterfall. It was already here.
The water comes from rainfall in the mountains that seeps down into the basement rock reservoir some 2 kilometres underground, where it's heated up by the Earth's core. But we've got work to do, aka gin to drink. So it's off to New Zealand's second largest city, Christchurch. I'm visiting the Spirits Workshop, which started in 2015 when 4 friends decided to split the cost of a still. I don't even want to split the cost of a bill with my friends.
Hello, Anthony.
Hi, George.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you for having me at Spirits Workshop.
You're very welcome.
And I believe you're going to give me a little bit of a tour.
Let's go. After you.
Thank you.
So this is
Oh, beautiful.
this is the distillery area. It's our beautiful still, unnamed so far. So
Unnamed?
if you can come up with a name, that makes sense.
Actually, I think
that'd be
that the
pretty
name
cool.
George is a great.
George.
It's a really
Go.
solid choice,
Yeah,
you
why
know?
not?
Dependable,
Yeah.
elegant.
Yeah. Get a little nameplate put on there.
Oh, look,
we
whatever
go.
you want to do.
So it's a 500 litre still. We bought it originally for making gin. We were growing our gin business, so we needed more than our 50 litre that we started with.
Have you still got that kicking around somewhere?
Yeah, we still use that for making trials and for scale up to the 500. It makes about 1,000, 1,200 bottles of gin at a time, so that's quite a good scale.
Yeah.
And the copper, so the gin still sort of goes up to here, and then this bit on top is really for whiskey making. It helps with getting more copper contact in the whiskey,
Right.
which improves the flavour. Takes out sulphur compounds so it doesn't smell like Rotorua when you're stilling. When we're making whiskey, we're using all the copper condenser on this side.
And these have got little plates in between, don't they? I saw
Yeah,
them.
so we, for some of our gins, we refine our own base spirit from the barley, and we use the column still to do that. So each one of those has a plate in it. Basically, it acts like a whole lot of little stills that are stacked one on top of the other. And each time the vapour goes up from one plate to another, it recondenses and reboils, and so each time it does that, it increases the concentration of alcohol. And we can get up to about 95, just over 95% out of here. But we refine our base spirit for those gins to about 94, so we still have a little bit of malty sweetness left behind in the base spirit, yeah. Well, from here the whiskey goes into barrels. We've got, you can see some of these are ex-bourbon barrels here. We use all sorts of different barrels for the whiskey. One of our gins, a very small volume gin, it's called Negroni Special. It's designed for big boozy old-fashioned cocktails. And it's a big boozy gin, 55% in the bottle.
Oh, wow.
And it's aged for just about 2 months in brand new small French oak barrels, just to give it this lovely sort of toffee, butterscotchy sort of flavours and aromas. It's our most awarded gin, lots of gold medals for that one.
Oh, I might need to try that one out.
Absolutely. This is one of our gin sort of workrooms, I suppose. We make a sloe gin. Sloe gin is essentially a liqueur made with gin and a type of plum called sloe. And you soak the plums in the gin for a period of time, and it absorbs all these beautiful flavours out of the sloes. And then you put a bunch of sugar in it, make a liqueur.
Yum.
We make ours inside Otago Pinot Noir barrels, so
does that give it extra sweetness?
Yeah, well, not extra sweetness, but it gives it extra fruity flavour and a little bit of barrel influence as well, which makes it a little more complex and almost port-like in character. So these are the barrels that we've got filled with sloe berries and gin. And this one...
Oh, so the sloe's still in there?
Yeah, there's many kilos of sloes in there and many litres of gin. And this one we've taken the end off. So
For me?
Just for you, Jill, just for you. So you can have a wee smell of the beautiful flavours and aromas.
I can see the berries in there too.
Yeah.
So there's heaps of berries.
Yep.
Because it's up to,
Yep.
the gin is up to about there and the berries are up to about there.
It's been aging for about the right length of time, I think. That's been in there for, about 4 months, so that's about what we want it to be. But it's not sweetened at this point, so we don't add the sugar until afterwards. Traditionally, you make it in a jar with a cup of sugar, a bottle of gin, and a jar full of sloe berries. That's the way you do it at home. But we macerate the berries in the gin without sugar, and then we add the sugar to sweeten it afterwards.
So you can really balance it.
Yeah, so we can get the right balance of flavour, exactly.
So you mentioned that you do still have your original still.
Yes,
away
yes, Yo-Yo.
Yo-Yo.
It does have a name.
That's a great
It's called
name.
Yo-Yo. It's and down here
meet
behind
Yo-Yo.
us.
Oh, there's Yo-Yo.
There's Yo-Yo.
Hi, Yo-Yo.
Yo-Yo, you can see pretty much just a very small version of George.
Of
the
George.
big still. Yeah.
I like that this is catching on.
Yeah, well, it might have a name now. Yeah, so Yo-Yo's just a 50-litre pot with a small column. All of our gins were made on the still up until 3 years ago, so we're making gin, or I was making gin at 100 bottles at a time, and literally filling them from a jug and sticking the labels on.
Oh, wow. You and Yo-Yo were working pretty hard.
Yeah, we still use Yo-Yo for development. So when we're mostly for scale up, so we do our development at bench scale, but we can't go from bench scale to 500 litres in one go. So we scale up to 50. Once we get it working on Yo-Yo, we can go to the 500 litres quite easily. The Negroni Special gin that I was telling you about, that's only a very small batch product, so we make that on Yo-Yo as well.
Still working hard.
Still working hard, yeah.
Good on you,
generally.
Yo-Yo.
generally well used.
Shall we taste some of the fruits of Yo-Yo and George's labour?
Absolutely.
So we're starting off with the dry.
Curious Dry. Yeah, this is the first London dry style gin we made, and we've made it with all New Zealand native botanicals.
Oh, amazing.
So it's a London dry with just, other than juniper, 4 New Zealand native botanicals. Kawakawa, Horopito, Manuka and Tarata. On the nose, you get those sort of herbaceous green aromas, that kawakawa-iness. Kawakawa is a really beautiful match with citrus, so it goes really nicely with just a lemon or lime in a G&T, those bright citrus notes in the tonic.
Yum. Or straight in the glass.
Straight in the glass, it's lovely also.
Yum.
It's got a-
See, it's quite complex for a dry and for so few botanicals.
Yeah, we tried to make, you know, the wheel of gin flavours. So we tried to make one botanical for each of the quarters of the wheel. The hardest one to find was citrus. New Zealand bush doesn't have much in it that's citrusy, unlike Australia where pretty much everything you got is lime, this and that. In New Zealand we have one little tree called a tarata, which has the leaves, when you crush the leaves you get this bright sort of lemony note. So that was the hardest bit to get into the gin. In my opinion, it's our best G&T gin. It's sort of just a lovely gin and tonic. The Kawakawa is perfect for gin and tonic.
And so this one was one of your first gins that you made?
This was our first classic London dry. So we made it, the first one we made was a more contemporary style, much more botanical forward gin. And then the next one we made was our Negroni special, because Negroni week was coming up and we thought, what's a good excuse to make another gin? It's Negroni week. So,
and we saw this one aging.
yes, so this one's aged in a virgin French oak barrel just for a short period of time, just 6 to 8 weeks. That's what gives it this beautiful golden colour. And you get these lovely honey, toffee, butterscotchy sort of flavours and aromas in the gin. On the nose you can probably smell those sort of sweet, woody notes.
Yeah.
They're just we don't want it in the barrel for long enough to become tanniny and oaky. We don't want it to taste like a whiskey. It's still a gin. But those notes are quite good in a Negroni because they smooth the whole cocktail out. That little toffee, butterscotchy thing.
I feel like there's more citrus in this one as well.
There is a lot more orange in here, lots and lots. So we put lots of spice in to go well with the vermouth, lots of orange to go well with the Campari, and then lots of alcohol. It's 55% in the bottle.
All right.
Just that extra alcohol, it richens up the cocktail, makes it more, almost gives it texture, body and mouthfeel. So
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, wow. There's so much going on.
When you sip it, you get those toffee butterscotchy things first.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And then a little bit of, because it's 55%, you're going to get warmth. But then once that dissipates, you
vanilla
get this
at the end.
big orange flavour, big wave of orange. And for me, it finishes like, I don't know if you have Jaffa lollies in Australia.
We do indeed.
Finishes like Jaffas.
Yeah,
'Cause
that chocolatey note
the
and
barrel
then the
comes
citrus.
back with that little chocolate
Yeah.
note and the orange flavour comes through.
Oh, that is delicious.
If you make a G&T with it, just that orange flavour comes out. It's almost like candied orange G&T.
Yum. Now, this is one of your most awarded gins, I believe?
This is our most awarded gin, yeah. We've had gold medal in the San Francisco International Spirits Competition. We were in the top 30 gins in the New York World Spirits Competition. It's a lovely sipping gin as well. You can almost treat it like a single malt. You just put a little bit of ice in.
Yeah.
As the ice melts, different botanical flavours just come through, yeah. We're not the only ones to make sloe gin in New Zealand anymore, but we were the first, and we're the only ones that make it in sort of larger commercial quantities. It's traditional English liqueur.
I did not realise that sloe gin was a liqueur, because obviously sloe gin sort of followed the gin explosion on the market, and then in Australia there's a lot of sloe gin around.
Yeah, well, traditionally in the UK, the sloes are they grow on hedgerows, so they're sort of a plum or cherry type of fruit.
Yeah.
Little tiny things. These are dried ones.
They're so small.
So
they look like giant juniper berries.
they do a bit, yeah. We bring them in dried. There's not many sloes in New Zealand, but in the UK you'd go out in summer, you pick them off the hedgerows. The little fruit are no good to eat because they don't have much sweetness. They're quite astringent and bitter.
Yeah.
But they've got lots and lots of colour and lots of flavour. So you would take them home, put them in a jar, bottle of gin, cup of sugar, then you put it in the cupboard for 6 months.
Which you've done on a larger scale.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of a jar, we use a Otago Pinot Noir barrel. We leave it in the barrel with the sloes for about 4 months, and it absorbs all these lovely plum and almond marzipan sort of flavours which come out of the sloes. The almond note comes out of the stone of the fruit.
Oh, sure.
And then the plum out of the meat. And then the barrel gives it a little bit of a wine fruit flavour. And a little bit of barrel influence makes it almost port. A nice port character.
Yeah, that barrel note, like almost smokiness in there.
Just
very light.
Just a hint. A lot of sloe gins are sweet and fruit or plum. This one's got a few more layers to it.
And to round things out, it's time for the whiskey.
Most of our whiskey is aged in new French oak casks for 4 years or so, and it's our mainstay whiskey is virgin French oak, and we use quite small casks, 50 and 100 litre casks, and that delivers flavour more quickly than a large barrel because you have more volume, more surface area to volume ratio, so you get more wood flavour in the whiskey more quickly. And then the Canterbury climate is great for aging whiskey because it gets hot and cold quite often, and every time it gets hot it squeezes the liquid into the barrel, and every time it gets cold the liquid comes back out, and while it's been in the wood it's been dissolving all those beautiful flavours out of the wood. This one has been aged 3 years in the virgin French oak, and then it's been finished for a year in barrels that we've used to make the sloe gin. So it's got these lovely chocolate toffee notes which you get from virgin French oak, and then on top of that these beautiful rich plummy fruity notes from the sloe gin barrel. It's cask strength, so it's 60.7% in the bottle. So
Okay, cheers.
cheers.
I've got to say, for cask strength, it's pretty smooth.
Which is pretty smooth for 60%. Lovely big fruity flavours and that chocolatey toffee base.
Yeah.
Beautiful chocolate finish.
Yeah, and that kind of, is it oil, like an oily kind of mouth quality?
Yeah, absolutely. The extra alcohol does a bit of that, but also the concentration of the flavour profile in there gives it these really rich, mouth-filling, mouth-coating flavours.
And like, yeah, you can't, there's no like oaky flavour. It's all chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yum. Well done, Ashley.
Thank you.
Well done, and thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Lovely to have you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Next time on the Cellar Door New Zealand, we head south to our final destination, Queenstown, and the Central Otago wine region. See you then.